Hello, welcome to Sheepdog Says. I'm Sheepdog, and today I wanted to talk about fears. My son's 5 now, and I think recently when my wife took him to Drayton Manor and went in their haunted house, I think it's probably the first time in his little life that he's actually experienced terror, because since going there, it's changed him. He seems to be much more afraid of things that normal children wouldn't have done in the first place, or he's more thinking about the consequences of things, or he's worried about ghosts being in his room and stuff like that. As an aside, thinking out loud while I'm talking about this, most parents would just say ghosts don't exist. For some reason, my response was, ghosts don't come in our house because we've got a dog. And I don't know why that came out. I don't know why I said that. I don't know why. I was thinking about it the day after I said it. And yeah, that's really bad advice. I don't know. If the dog dies, what are we going to do? I hadn't really thought it through. Whoops. I guess he'll tell a therapist about it one day when he's older. I'm not the only parent that scars their kids for lives. Mum and Dad, if you're watching, thank you. They got us this weird clown thing when I was a child that hung from the ceiling. Now, I don't remember whether they had it when I was a child and then it moved on to my sister when she was a baby. But there's only 2 years between us. I think there was even a point when she was a baby that we shared a room. But I have these very vivid memories of this weird... It was like a purple clown with a big smiley face that just hung off a hook in the room. And I guess when they moved the room around to put my sister in there, they hung it over her crib. It's like, oh, look at the nice clown. That'll be nice for the baby. But as a 2-year-old looking across the room, or a 3-year-old, I don't know how long we shared a room for, I remember looking across the room and just seeing this ginormous shadow of a man on the wall. And it just being absolutely horrific. It scared the bejeebers out of me. And I don't know about most kids. And again, my son's gone through the phase where he talked about an imaginary friend. I think he just probably stole it from a TV show. I'm trying to think what the imaginary friend from Inside Out, is that the film with the kid with the depression in her head and stuff? But he kept calling it Blah Blah and was talking about Blah Blah all the time anyway. I didn't have imaginary friends. I had these imaginary clown enemies. One of them had piano teeth and they freaked the hell out of me, and I used to have nightmares about them. I used to worry they'd be upstairs when I was a kid, and I'd venture up worrying they were going to be there. And honest to God, that thing probably messed me up for years as a child, worrying about clowns or worrying about the specific clowns that were my enemies or whatever. And I mean, looking back, it didn't come from anything malicious at all. It didn't come from anything as stupid as saying that dogs keep ghosts away, but it came from just putting these creepy, weird clown things in our room. I think the only thing that really replaced that for me, I don't know what age it must have been. It must have been maybe 12-ish. I wasn't still afraid of the clowns at that extent by then, but the thing that replaced it for me, definitely, the next big thing that petrified the hell out of me was the Ghostface killer from Scream. That costume freaks the hell out of me even now. I mean, maybe not as much today, but it did right the way through school. I remember always thinking if somebody came out at me with one of them, just for a joke, I'd probably just push them in front of a bus or anything to get away from it. It'd freak me out. I remember some idiots putting on the costume and running around our school with a plastic knife, and they got in loads of trouble over it, but they freaked the hell out of me at the time. I remember watching it kind of unfold in our like open quad area at school and just thinking, oh no, it's happening. This is the day I've been fearing all my life. But yeah, it's one of those things, I guess that's quite natural. You've seen a horror film, you don't like something, it freaks you out. A bit like my son's reaction to ghosts is quite understandable when he was in a haunted house. For years I was afraid of heights, and that kind of came from a mix of things. You know, I don't like being up high. I don't know about you watching, but I get this fear that if I'm standing over something that I'm just going to fall. Or I've got a colleague who apparently starts to think, well, I'm going to fall anyway, I might as well just go. And that freaks her out because she thinks, oh my God, I'm going to fall, I might as well just let it happen. And I worry that, I definitely get where she's coming from with that, because I've been like, I was having we had a drink up on the top of the block of flats I used to work in. I'm standing on the edge looking over it thinking like, I was freaking out that one of my mates would accidentally push me or whatever. But I remember going to Land's End as a kid, and my mum was wandering around the rocks, and then I called out to see where she was, and she did not come back. And for that like 5 minutes, while she was just having a wander looking around, I was convinced she'd fallen in. and we were so high up. And even now, my wife says, let's go to Cornwall. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go anywhere near that, because I remember how petrifying it was. I'm pretty sure I got in an argument with my mum and dad and threatened to go over the fence. While leaning on it, my dad ran up behind me and lifted me up, and that freaked me out. So again, score one for them. I'm starting to see a pattern where perhaps it's not just it's not just me. Perhaps it is them a little bit. One of the weirdest fears I've talked about on my blog before, and I've been resoundingly mocked for it by the likes of Kev. I had this really weird fear that I'm going to wake up one day and my whole life up to this point will have been a dream, and I'll only be 7 or 8, and it's one of those things where every now and again I'll think of it and I'll think, Jesus, what would I do? And I've started to kind of get past it and ignore it, but it was just, I think it was one of those things where, again, everyone gets this. You're at a point in life where everything feels all right, and then you suddenly start thinking of ways it could go wrong. And the weirdest way that I've come up with in my mind is waking up and finding out that I've dreamt it all. I've always thought I'd probably try and find out, because Market Deeping is quite a weird name for a place. So I wouldn't have, if I've dreamt it, then all right, fair enough. But if it exists, there's no way I'd have heard about it as a 7-year-old. So I think I'd probably try and get here and just see whether everything plays out in the real world, how it would have done, you know, in my dream world. I wrote about how I wouldn't be able to go and interfere, like meet my wife early or change anything. I'd have to let all the stupid stuff happen, which I think is why it's probably part of a fear, because you have to relive it all, knowing that everything that happened had to happen for you to get to where you are today. That would just be really horrific to sort of witness people dying again, or, you know, witness just stuff go wrong. I've got a bit deep there, and I don't really want to. Speaking of people dying, I had a stupid fear again that I'm still not convinced on. It just freaks me out, and I know they're not related, but I've got a real fear of the film and the character Howard the Duck, which is really irrational, and it's probably not that funny. It sounds funny, but it's probably not that funny. I probably shouldn't go into this in much detail, but the first time I ever saw that film, the next day a relative died, which again, that's probably about as sad as I'll let it get. But I'm pretty sure I saw it another time, and in the same vicinity of it happening, somebody else I knew died. And then it just became a thing in my head that if I see that, that's going to happen, cause and effect. They're not related at all. I know they're not related. It's completely irrational. I'm a broken mental man. But even now, when I was watching, I think it was Guardians of the Galaxy, one of the films like that, and right at the end they have a cameo from Howard the Duck, and I was like, oh, you're kidding me. And I don't think cameos count. I've ruled that out, but I daren't watch the film. If someone said to me, oh, you know, we're going to have a meet up and we're all going to watch it, I'd be like, I'll turn up afterwards, because I daren't witness the film through its entirety, just in case. I feel like if something happened by sheer coincidence, I'd feel like I had blood on my hands. So I've just got this insane fear of it now that I'll just steer clear of it. It's easy enough to steer clear of without being too hard done by. If I was afraid of eating or oxygen or, I don't know, sunlight because of it all, then yeah, fair enough, overcome the fear. But a weird character from Marvel, I think I'll get away with it. It wasn't even a good film. It's just stuck in my head as a weird cause and effect thing. Other irrational things that have kind of stuck in my head as a cause and effect thing. I remember going, my school used to put on these events where you'd go, like, I think the event was called Bike Climb, Sail, Golf or something weird like that. And it was exactly what it said in the tin. You went biking, hiking, sailing, golfing, whatever, climbing. And we had to go and do this thing in the middle of a lake where we were rowing a boat around, and then we had to try and tip it. And my friend and I had paired up, and we were having a laugh, and I think he kept quoting scenes from Jaws and just saying, like, you know, there's, you know, Jaws is out there or whatever. And then we had to capsize the boat, and my brain just leaps to the most logical conclusion in that moment or whatever. But we're tipping this boat over, and we all had to fall out, and I landed on, I think it was just the sail. But my mind went straight to, it's Jaws, oh my God, freaked out and absolutely went mental trying to get back in the boat as quickly as I could, because I'd convinced myself that Jaws was in this random lake in, like, Essex. So there's not going to be a shark within 1,000 miles, I imagine. But yeah, I was convinced. It freaked me out. Every time now I'll go in any kind of water scenario like that, I have this in the back of my mind. That and sea urchins. I read a book about sea urchins, and now whenever I go abroad, I'm wary of walking in the sand or in the water, just in case there happens to be one, which I don't even know how deep their habitats are. I mean, jellyfish are probably more of a risk, but even the last time I went on holiday, I made the stupid mistake, and this is a bit of an aside, but because I was worried about urchins and because I was just generally being silly and couldn't get it out of my head, I thought, I'll have a look under. I'll just go under, look, see what I can see, forgetting that the water is extremely salty. I had pink eyes for like the next 4 days because I just completely burned my eyes. You'd think that would have taught me a lesson, but I'm still wary. I'd get goggles and have a look next time just to be sure. I don't even know. I mean, somebody tell me in the comments, what is the natural habitat of an urchin? How deep are they? They're very spiky. I don't want to tread on one by mistake and ruin my feet. Would that even particularly hurt? Is it like, I don't know. I'm sure I've probably touched a hedgehog before. Are they more spiky than a hedgehog? I've probably trod on nails before. I don't know. Anyway, I think that's probably it. I can't think of any more major fears that come to mind. Obviously, there's the obvious parenty stuff. You lay awake at night worrying about your kids and all sorts of things. I'm slightly fearful that my insane quick responses that I don't think through are going to cause trouble because, as I say, I've told my son that ghosts can't get in our house because we have a dog. Well, yeah, I don't know if we set the time my in-laws, I'm hoping he won't connect the dots. I'm hoping he'll forget by then. I may have to come up with it that there's a rock that can keep them away. I think that's what I could just say they don't exist. Remind myself they don't exist. They don't exist. I could just say they don't exist. I don't need to come up with a story. We're not talking about bugs. We're not talking about cats. We're not talking about spiders. We're just talking about a fictional creature that doesn't exist. Another thing, actually, before I go, another thing that does freak me out, and I think this is a really convoluted story, and I only pieced it together as an adult. I was convinced that obviously I must have watched X-Files or something, and I was convinced one night that something happened because I was in bed. I got woke up. There was like a green light filling my room. There was all this noise going on outside. I woke up in the morning with a mark on my arm, and for a little while, I kind of in the back of my mind thought, is that what people feel like when they've had some sort of alien encounter? And I was a bit freaked out about it. And then I think we were talking years later, and I mentioned to my mum and dad about it all. And they were like, oh, how old were you? And which house was it we lived in? And I'm explaining it. And they said, oh, I think that's because the house behind our house, the house I grew up in, the one with the clown and the imaginary enemies and all this, that and the other, apparently the house to the back of us got raided by the drugs police at like 3 a.m. one night, and they just come bursting in and arrested everyone, and there was a helicopter and it was all carnage. And as a child, I woke up and just thought, aliens! And I don't know why my room was green. I imagine they must have had some sort of spotlight on, or maybe it was something they used, I don't know. But it's one of those weird things where you think, we didn't grow up in a particularly bad area. It's rough now, but it wasn't particularly rough then. It was quite nice then. But again, that for years made me have this kind of weird fear of aliens. I'd always worry that, aliens would attack or would be... My friend reminded me I was once riding around on my bike while we were camping on holiday. I can't remember where we were now. And a radio report came on. This guy, right, long story short, this person was listening to War of the Worlds, the original. And again, I must have been about 10 at this point. All I heard was, like, there's a ship over London, oh my God, rah, rah, rah. And I biked home so quick and told my dad, turn on the radio, there's aliens in London, all of this. And he kind of looks at me like, puts the radio on to see what the hell I'm on about, and he's wetting himself because it's obviously the stupidest. It's exactly what really happened in the olden days when was it Orson Welles, when he first put the radio broadcast out. But it got me like an absolute fool. Again, I was a child. My mate reminded me this the other day, and because I mentioned it to him a long time ago, and those two kind of events have always freaked me out about aliens, and it's weird finding out as an adult that it all kind of stems from this just drug bust that happened outside my house. It also makes me wonder whether I really saw Father Christmas at one point or another, or whether that was just another helicopter chasing druggies. Yeah, just weird stuff. The weird kids' minds really make stuff go nuts. I think that was probably a helicopter outside my window or something like that I've kind of translated in my mind. But anyway, I'm going to leave that there because it's gone off on a bit of a weird one. Again, let me know what you think in the comments. Give me some suggestions for ideas and so forth. So far, coming up with ideas every day has been hit and miss, I guess. But there's always stuff to talk about, every topic. Someone said to me, he's a raconteur. I know how to talk about topics once I've had the idea. Yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your fears. It'd be interesting to hear what you're afraid of. Every time I do these videos, I think of something 20 minutes later that I'm like, I should have said that. Or my sister texts me the next day going, what about that thing you're afraid of or whatever. So, I might do a recap at some point. I'm getting to a point now where I don't know whether I've covered stuff before. For example, the other day I wanted to talk about stag do's and I couldn't remember if I'd done a video about stag do's because I've been on a couple. If I have, let me know. If I haven't, let me know because I've got some stories for them. But anyway, as usual, subscribe, watch more videos, comment, all that good stuff. Thank you very much for watching and I will see you later.